Your motivational guru. This is the DLD Motivational Moment. Two differences. Not long ago, venturing into a high-end auto dealer, I encountered a young man in a wheelchair. What struck me, he was minus legs and arms. The sales rep put keys to a new $127,398.30 vehicle in his wheelchair. A week later, I noticed a man in his wheelchair with no legs sitting by a dumpster smoking a cigarette. One up on his luck, one down on his luck. Are you excelling in your life every day? Or are you the one in an ambivalent mode? Which two differences do you choose? This has been the DLD Motivational Moment. You can the DLD at DLD282002@yahoo.com or 813-394-5875.
All right, so we heard a voice there. And we're going to bring on the man himself. Donald. Dowridge.
Of DLD.
And good evening.
Good evening.
It is glad I am happy to be.
We are glad. Oh, I like that. You are happy to be.
I am happy to be.
Happy to be. I like that. Before we jump in, you know, we always start with just letting folks know who you are. And you already have a motivational moment here on 99 Jams the Bird. But before we get into the motivational moment, tell us, what is DLD?
DLD is Determined to Learn and Develop, which was developed 27 years ago,
Wow.
1992,
Wow.
On the heel of my son coming home. And can I be real?
I would like for you
I know
to
we
do
already
that.
over.
I would
Can
like
I be
for you
real?
to be very
Be
real.
real.
Okay. He came home and he busted me.
What do you mean?
Yes, I was laid across the couch watching Jerry Springer on my day off from the post office as a manager.
Okay.
And I was watching Jerry Springer, and I'll be honest with you. I was sitting there drinking a 40 on my day off, relaxing. And when my son came in and said, it was a Thursday, and he said, "Dad, would you come and speak to my class?" I guess at that point he was happy of my achievements, but I still had some setbacks. You know, still had pain.
Right.
That's where the 40 came in.
Right.
And I said, sure, not knowing that it was a setup. And when I say setup, when I went to that school, Edison Elementary, that next day, which was a Friday, and I walked in and started talking and doing my James Brown and, you know, just cutting it up, you know. And the teacher, and I'm going to mention his name.
Okay.
Matter of fact, my son is right there.
You see your son?
Yeah, there he is right there.
Okay.
And anyway,
Roger.
yeah. Anyway, Mr. Horn said, he came, he whispered in my ear, and he said, "Mr. Dowridge, I got to step off for a few minutes." I said, "Sure." Not knowing that Mr. Horn was going to the principal's office to get on the phone and set up more speaking engagements for me.
Look at that.
So as I look back, I say, wow, that was God using my son to set me on another path. My initial path that I had dreamed of, I had dreamed of. Me, the human me, was to become the first black postmaster of Hillsborough County. That was my initial dream. But when my son came in, Mr. Horn went out. Next thing I know, I get home, there's 5 different schools requesting my presence to come and speak.
Front door.
And it wasn't until later on that I realized that God had used my son to use Mr. Horn to set me on this path. And here I am 27 years later. Set me on this path, which generally it grew into the DLD Enterprises, because eventually I was going to say Donald D Productions, because prior to that I was in the music world. I was producing acts, singing groups, and I was singing, and you know, etc., etc. So you know, this is a whole new avenue. So it's just like, okay, Don, you've been through the worst of worst in life. I'm going to use you, all right, moving forth to step up, step out, and help others.
Yes.
And without me saying, no, I'm not going to do it, you go get somebody else.
You didn't have a chance.
I just said, well, okay, cool. And I guess I said it because I enjoyed it.
Right.
You know, so I said, okay, let's do it. And
So
check this out, Don J.
Yeah.
Does this remind you of a conversation we had recently?
I don't remember what
Oh
was
my
that.
God! I mean, I know Monday nights feel like Friday
Yes.
night, but last Monday, I mean, this is what we talked about last week about when.
What you want to do? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
What you intend to do, all
what
things
you have
change.
come to do just comes out. You don't
Yes.
have to work at it; it just pulls
It just
you
pulls
out,
out.
right? And so, just a reminder: this is Everything Health, and we talk about everything.
Everything health.
Emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, financial. So. Basically, I just want to just set the path right now to let folks know. It sounds like tonight we're going down the emotional, mental, and spiritual, because you've already brought God into the conversation, saying that you were on the couch with a 40 and God said, "Get up, okay, get up. We got things to do."
I would like to. I would like to set the record straight.
Please. Please.
For you all out there, that of course, when he said busted him. That his son busted him. That's not a thing. Busted him. But now I understand why he said it. His son busted him. It means his son was who made him famous. Yeah. His son actually set his path for him. That's what busted I get now to understand mean. When I think, oh yeah, he busted him. Okay. So that's great. I love that. And yeah, great.
And you know, I hear a lot of people say, you know, well, when my children were coming to earth, it changed me. It gave me a new perspective because I had to start looking out for my children. And I will be honest, you know, when my son was born, yeah, it gave me a different perspective, even though I was still out there doing what I wanted to do. And when I was doing it, and I was good at doing it, you know. But as time moved on, it became, to me, a personal thing. Is like, Don, you know what you've been through. You know what you've come through. You got a son now. Are you going to continue down this road? I got something greater for you to do if you are open to do it. You know how they say, you know, God ain't going to come to you and demand you to do anything. But the door is open, signals come down to alert you. And if them signals continue to alert you, it's up to you to adhere to those signals. Because if you don't, then just imagine, even today, I still visualize that moment. From that moment to now where I could be.
Let me ask you a question. Back then, even before your son busted you on the couch, can you now pinpoint to other times where you were probably being drawn in this direction?
Well, believe it or not, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, who is on my phone, and I carry her everywhere I go.
Nice.
Matter of fact, by my bed, she sits by my bed. Well, she don't sit there. She's in a nice frame picture by my bed, as well as another beautiful, awesome young lady by the name of Audrey Bess, who is right under her. But my grandmother, Mary Rogers, when I was 16 years old, she told me that you're going to be famous. You're going to do incredible things in your life. God is going to use you.
Right.
And you know, me at 16, I'm a gangbanger, I'm running the streets, I'm thugging, I'm getting high, and I'm like, the last thing I want to hear is some lady telling me what I'm going to do in the future. Because I'm looking at what I'm doing now. I'm the man now. I ain't got time for the future. So, and then she told me, for instance, she told me, she said, Junior, that's how everybody called me Junior or Junebug on the streets.
Wow.
And she said, Junior, all the men in this family has been in the military. You need to go in the military, because if you go in the military, I promise you, the military will take care of you the rest of your life. I'm like, man, yeah, I'm not going. And at the time she told me, it's funny because President Nixon was pulling the troops out of Vietnam. Okay. Vietnam was over. Well, he declared that it was over, and they were starting to pull the soldiers out. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? However, I was 19 years old when my grandmother passed away. And I had to fly back to New York, to the Bronx, to her funeral. Right. And believe it or not, they had to hold me down because I actually got up and was trying to pull her out the casket.
Wow.
Because I could not see, you know, I didn't want her to go. That's how much impact she had on my life. Okay. And taking that, moving forth, I was 19, 2 years later, I'm in the military.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And believe it or not, during that time in the military, and I'm not bragging, but her words have come to fruition to this day.
Yeah, well, we know that, and we're here to talk about that tonight.
Let's get it on. Like
All right.
Marvin Gaye would say, let's get it
Let's
on.
get it on. So,
Okay.
check this out. So,
Yes, ma'am.
before we get into what you do, you've already alluded to what you used to do, because y'all, I had the opportunity to speak to this great man earlier today, and his story is just amazing. And so we want to draw that contrast by just spending a few minutes on that lifestyle that you had before, right? Because there's so much to say. So you talked about your own emotional well-being and the reasons why you were in pain because of the things you experienced in your youth. And then we talked about how that all turned around. So I think that folks hearing your story, even who may not have necessarily been in gangs or what have you, but can identify with just the pain and how the pain is currently making them feel, and then looking at what you've accomplished, I think that will be inspiring to some. So I want to start with your beginning. Is that okay?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
But
So-
before we
Right. We
start
gotta
with
pay
that
the bills.
begins, yeah, we gotta pay some bills, because of course without paying the bills, we don't know what's gonna happen. So here we go.
All right.
Right here, 99 Jams, the Berg.
Alrighty then.
99 Gems, The Berg.
Hey everyone, it's Emmy. There's a new show on 99 Jams that's catering specifically to the ladies. It's called Women Talk with yours truly, Emmy, and special guest co-host. We'll be discussing any and all topics that surround women and relationships, like keeping your individuality, healing after a breakup, cheating, balancing motherhood, and so much more. We'll be sharing personal stories and lots of laughs, so join in. And guys, we'd like to hear from you too, so don't be shy. That's every Monday night, 9 p.m., right here on 99 Jams, The Berg.
Somebody been through it. Somebody still trying to get over it. Somebody 62 is still trying to get over their torment. Somebody 32 is trying to get over their torment. As long as we live, we're always trying to get over it. And when I say get over something that happened in the past.
We're always growing.
And if I can use R. Kelly for a minute, we got so many people that are trapped in the closet. But when I say trapped in the closet, I'm not talking about what you think I'm talking
No,
about.
I don't know.
They're trapped in their
Yes, they
mind.
are.
Agony, pain, they are prisoners.
Come back in 10 seconds.
I am your host, Angel.
Right after the drop,
99
that's
Jams,
us.
The Bull.
Right after 99 Jams, the Berg, that's us. Coming up, 3, 2,
99 Gems, The Berg.
we're back.
Man, y'all missed that deep conversation we just had in the promo break, but we're going to try to bring some of that back plus more. You are here with Dr. Brown and Don J on Everything Health, making
Yes.
your Monday night feel like a Friday night. And we have Donald Dowridge of DLD. He's about
Another
to...
Donald in the studio.
Two Donalds. Watch out, y'all.
Now watch out.
What my man said, watch out now.
Okay. Yes. So before we went to the break, Don D.
Don D too. I'm Don D also.
Are you?
Yeah, I used to be called Don D back in Jamaica and in college.
Yeah, man.
I'm Donald Donovan.
Let's just go with Mr. DLD himself. Can we go with that?
Try
Yes.
John Love.
All right.
Third world. Since he went to Jamaica, let's go to Jamaica,
All
man.
right. All right. So, he is I'm not even going to begin to list. Let's just let you know right now that his grandmother told him that he would be famous, and that's what he is. His grandmother told him that he would do great things, and that's what he does. He impacts the lives of thousands, youth, adult. He goes into schools, he goes into businesses, he goes into churches. And let me tell you, y'all, this man experienced some things that people stay locked in their minds with the trauma that they experienced. But Mr. DLD, Charge Our Love himself, he did not, right? So let's just go back to the beginning. I mean, you told me earlier about the foster, oh God, the foster kid. You know what? I'm going to let you tell your story.
Well, I mean, you know, it's not funny. That's what was in my mind to say. It's ironic that I came to Earth on November the 28th, which was Thanksgiving of that year, 56. And as I grew older, I look back and I'm like, wow, if I was born on Thanksgiving, why did I have to go through so much trials and tribulations as a child? What child on this earth deserved to go through stuff like that? I understand now, you know, the big thing now, quote unquote, is trafficking, child trafficking. You know, I wouldn't wish that on my worst nightmare. But the point of it is that, you know, 5 foster homes. I arrived at my second foster home when I was 2 years old.
No.
Yes. My dad, Donald Sr., believe it or not, he was incarcerated. There were some issues going on, so my mother, they took us from my mother, and my dad tried to get us back. He saw us in a yard playing. That was myself and my 2 sisters. They saw us in the yard playing. My grandmother, Mary Rogers, she was able to capture my oldest sister, but my sister right under me, because it was 3 or like stair steps, they got her and they got me. Out of all 3,
the foster care
the foster care system. Now, the sister under me, she went to Frederick, Maryland, and she stayed in that one foster home the whole duration.
Wow.
Myself,
until she was 18.
until she was 18 or even older.
Okay.
All right. Myself, like I said, I went through 5 of them, and there is no joy that I can say that occurred, and if it did, it's strange. If it did occur with some in the second foster home, Mr. Morris, Mr. and Mrs. Morris was an elderly couple, and I would say they were probably about, mid-50s. I remember them as being maybe in their mid-50s. Now they had a nephew and a niece. The nephew and the niece were my tormentors.
Oh no.
The nephew, whenever, he slept like next door. It was 5 foster children. I was the baby boy, and then there was a girl, Esther, she was the baby girl, but it was 4 boys.
Yes.
I was the baby boy. They called me Big Daddy. All right? Big Daddy because I don't know, well, somebody listening remember the Baltimore Colts, and there was a ball player that his name was Big Daddy Lipskin.
Okay.
Right? He was a defensive lineman. So they took the Big Daddy and put it on me because they said I had a big gigantic head and a little body. Right? So this nephew, David, would torment me every chance he got. Not only that, he sexually molested me whenever he wanted. Not only that, he made me drink urine from out of the old knee-high bottles.
Oh no.
That was 5 occurrences he did that to me. Not only that, me coming home from church one Sunday, all the grown-ups were on the second floor talking and what have you. I'm coming from church, I'm probably about 7 or 8 years old, and I'm walking up the stairwell, and and I say, excuse me, can somebody teach me the Lord's Prayer? And he just turned around and he kicked me in my chest.
Wow.
When he kicked me in my chest, I tumbled down the stairwell and my head bumped against the wall. And it started bleeding, and I'm crying like I don't know what, and he just points down, if you don't shut up, I'll be down there, So that type of torment. The foster father, Mr. Morris, had no knowledge of this. If you tell, you know the story, right? If you tell, I'll kill you. So I walked around frightened of this man.
How old was this?
He was probably in his 20s.
And you were 7?
I was 7.
Good.
Yes.
Gosh.
And it got so too, because he slept across the hall on the 3rd floor. And there would be nights that, the bathroom was like, it seemed like it was, we in St. Pete, the bathroom seemed like it was in Tampa. So I had to walk from St. Pete all the way to Tampa to get to the bathroom. And you can only imagine me as a little child walking down that long stairwell and then having to go 20 miles down the hallway to the restroom. So I was scared.
Of course you were.
Because I was scared he was going to come get me. So I would wind up just doing my business in the bed. Because I was scared.
Right.
We had a dog, and this might upset some people,
Oh, no.
who love dogs, and I love dogs too. But we had a boxer, and I took out my aggression on that dog. I took out my aggression on that dog. That dog would run. I would tell, I would be at the top of the stairs, and I'd come, and the dog would rush up. And as soon as he get to the top, I would push him back down the steps. And I made that dog so mean, and I, that's one of my regrets. That dog was so mean that a little girl was walking through the alley, and the dog broke loose and attacked the little girl.
Oh my gosh.
Because of what was going on in this home, quite naturally, it affected me mentally.
Yeah.
It took a mental effect on me, so much so that when I would go to school right across the street, Turner Station Elementary, I would wind up, because back then, teachers didn't play. I would wind up getting that long ruler tapped on my behind. I would wind up getting the ruler tapped on my hand. And I would wind up always in the corner with the dunce hat, D-U-N-C-E.
So basically you're being punished because you are being treated cruel.
Yes.
That's essentially what's happening, and no one is taking the time to figure out what's going on with this young man who we already know is in foster care that's causing him to behave this way, right? And so even when, excuse me, I'm sorry, one of the things that I'm hearing as you're speaking is you didn't have a place for that pain to go. You didn't have anybody to be able to share it with. You know, now we talk a lot about mental health therapists and so on and so forth, but you didn't have anybody to talk to or to share it with, and so it came out some other way. And it won't just happen for kids, it'll happen for adults as well, because even as you got older, it was still coming out in other ways.
Yeah, in other ways. As a matter of fact, everyone would say, that's a bad boy. That's what they would call me. They say, that Big Daddy, he's one bad boy. Somebody need to do something to that boy. But again, if I will, David's sister Jean, one day she came in the bedroom where I was, threw me on the floor, threw the mattress and everything, and she took the sheets and she tied, now this is on the 3rd floor, she took the sheets, tied them together, and tied them around my neck.
And before you explain that to us and let us know, we're going to take a quick pause for the cause, and we'll be right back.
The next letter is
Because I know what was coming.
J. J is for
Gems. 99 Gems. The Berg.
Okay, can I just say something?
Yes.
Before we go on, I just want you all to know, I had to look up, when you said your birthday was on, you were born on Thanksgiving.
6:20 a.m.
I had to look up, what does Donald mean? World mighty. I think you represent that. All right? World mighty. All right, so this
So that
little
girl,
girl who is in pain herself was inflicting pain on you. Please
Yeah,
continue.
well, she came in and threw me on the floor, threw the mattress and all that, etc., etc. And we was on the 3rd floor, and she tied these sheets together, and she began to tie the sheet around my neck, and she cursed me out, and she said she's tired of me, and she's going to hang me out the window, and she don't care if I die or not. And the only thing that saved me that morning that she did this on Easter was my foster brother, Ronald Hamilton, who I still have contact with this day. When he walked in and he pushed her, knowing that he would wind up getting a whipping, but he took it upon himself to save a life. The life was mine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess you could say I was bad, for a lesser word, but I wouldn't say bad because of the fact that I needed, as we discussed earlier, only thing I was looking for was an outlet. The only thing that I was looking for, and like any child would look for, is L-O-V-E.
Love.
If I can say this, you know, when a father, when a potential father, mother get into their lovey-dovey mode, and 9 months later that child comes, in the midst of that lovey-dovey mode, you hear, I love you. 9 months later, that child comes, the mother is holding the baby, I love you. The baby has no jurisdiction over the family that that baby is being born into. But the baby does not deserve to be tormented. The baby does not deserve to be in a situation where 15 years later, after the birth, that baby is in somebody's prison. That baby is somewhere walking the streets. That baby is seeking nutrition, if you will, for a lesser word, out of a garbage disposal, etc., etc. No baby coming in this world deserves that type of torment. Now you think about it, not just me. Okay, my story is unique, but think about all those other stories that are out there as we walk the streets and we would drive through the streets and we see all these unfortunate individuals, adults if you will, teenagers walking the streets. They have a backstory that led up to where they are today.
Exactly.
Right? I'm just one of the fortunate ones who have gotten the help that I needed and woke up before it was too late. Now let me tell you, like I said, 5 homes. The 4th foster home, I was in a situation where these people outpo dog food for 9 months. That's what I was made to eat. These people...
Wait, for all your meals?
That was it.
They only fed you dog food?
Alpo dog food, and they made me sometimes sleep out with the dog.
Wow.
I ran away from home down on Greenmount Avenue in Baltimore to the social service all the way up to the 4th floor where my social worker was, and she said, "Little Donald, sit down, I'll finish. When I get finished," in the midst of it, she gave me a charm pop. You give a child any type of sweets, watch their feet start twiggling, their toes start squiggling, and a smile come on their face. That was me. When it was all said and done, she put me back in the car. I'm thinking to myself, this lady's going to move me to a safer environment.
She did not.
She walked, when we got there, she went into the kitchen with the adults. And back then, if you're an adult, if you're a child, you don't interrupt in grown folks' business.
Right.
I sat on the couch, and as I sat on the couch, I was staring at the light, bouncing like this, and I'm saying, they're going to move me. This lady walked out, put her hand on the door, turned around and looked at them and said, "Your check is in the mail." She didn't even look at me.
Wow.
All I know is I heard the car start and she was gone. And as soon as that car engine got out of earshot, they commenced to beat me again.
Wow.
This is the 4th foster home. And the foster father told me for one Christmas, he gave, you know what he gave me for Christmas? He gave me a pair of roller skates. He said, "You want to run away? Now run away now." Trust me, as crazy as I was, I got on those roller skates. I made it down the block and I didn't know how to stop. So that's probably why the back of my head is flat.
Oh,
But
man.
to go through that, it is torment itself. I tell people, I say, you know, when I see on CNN about a person who committed
Yes.
murder, when I see what's going on in the streets, when I see
That's
people in
coming from somewhere.
insane asylums, I say, wow, thank you, God, because that could have been me
Thanks.
with all that anger that I had. And to be honest with you, I might lose some so-called associates, friends, or whatever, but it got so bad that I was standing in the mirror, hitting myself in the face,
No.
open-handed, telling myself I just want to die,
No.
drinking bleach out of the bottle,
No.
trying to commit suicide.
No.
This is probably when I was in the 4th grade, and I forget how old you were in the 4th grade, but this
About
is when
10.
this is when this type of habitual habit took place within me. I didn't want to live anymore. I was done. As a matter of fact, where we lived at on Stroder Street, there was a funeral home right across the street. When they would I would see them take the caskets out of the